Welcome to the Do It All Dad Year podcast, dad-friendly entertainment for you and me. This is episode 42, Hustling from Home. I'm wearing my white polo shirt today because white privilege is a bad look after Labor Day. Then again, I bet the great Gatsby never bought a polo shirt at an outlet store in Lake George either. First episode for my new father-son cooking show. Double Talk with Chef Samuels. Homemade pizza on the grill is better than Poli's half-ass form Sicilian. Either way you cut it. The only reason I still go to Starbucks is to test my white privilege by making fun of W having the hots for Michelle Obama. Was W into the booger sugar with the brown sugar on top? I don't get it. Do It All Dad names for your home office. 0 desk stairs on Metro North. Room. Got Twitter for Cooler Talk office. Until you start getting shadow banned again like myself. Creative Zone Sanctuary. Can't get fired from room. Shelter from sexual harassment storm. A Southern gent's way of getting into her panties, son, is playing Remedy by the Black Crowes in your freshman dorm room. And sing the verse, if you let me come inside, will you let it glide? Assuming you're on the pill, Little Martha. Daddy, what's sponge cake? It's like Jewish pound cake. The only thing more annoying than actors doing Queen's accents in movies is Mets fans doing themselves on WFAN. I messed that up. George Carlin is a legendary, great stand-up comedian, no doubt. Still, in your early 40s, he tends to sound like a Loner Bukowski who made a living off of stripping, cliched language for all it's worth, without always being excessively hilarious about it. This is me getting my wife to burn her nightie already. James Corden mouthing, Karma Chameleon does more for me than your nightie, babe. My 4-year-old son on the Tilt-A-Whirl in Lake George wasn't horrified or super secure. His mind couldn't figure out what to think. For the first time ever, he looked like an indecisive, neurotic Jew. Like me at the Bellagio buffet every time I've ever been. How do I have specks of gray in my beard but not in my hair? Is this God's way of saying I should cut my losses? As a stay-at-home dad / father of 3, have I grown weary of society looking down on me like a bearded lady freak or a poor man's Walt Whitman? What do you say to your retired parents in Arizona on Labor Day? Don't melt to death trying to barbecue without your 3 grandchildren again because you refuse to buy a fucking pool fence? I think God forced me to triple my tongue right there for disrespecting thy father and mother. Change my Do It All Dad Year podcast category to comedy, finally. I hate myself for staying in my safe space of kids and education categories out of fear of being judged too harshly from the bowling boys of comedy like Bill Burr. Pathetic. Is Alex Jones still banned from LinkedIn? How will a recruiter for Manpower find him now? Can a Manpower recruiter dig into the InfoWars org chart through social selling alone? Rolling up their sleeves to go bunker digging isn't happening either. Facebook commits to using 100% renewable energy by 2020. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan will go nuclear once he learns how his fan page won't be powered by pure anti-Semitism and self-hating Jew-mongering by Zit, Face, Zuck anymore. Facebook commits to using 100% renewable energy by 2020. 0 likes on the Antifa fan page so far. You can't firebomb a Marine recruitment office off solar energy alone. Obama's real-time interior monologue at the McCain Memorial. Torture is me wasting away on Michelle's almond smoothie diet as my fake news legacy becomes exposed for the empty, self-enriching fraud that it was. How much longer was that McCain funeral tribute going to last for exactly? Is it now going on a finally full roadshow tour with the George Soros band of deep state puppeteers? New York City has the Amsterdam rule now. Technically, it's illegal to smoke pot in public, but you don't have to be paranoid about getting arrested and getting butt slammed in your bong hole in Gen Pop either. Hey now. This is me, unemployed comedian / father of 3, on the phone with my mother. The NASDAQ hit 8,000, Ma, despite Hillary shopping around for a voodoo doll maker in Haiti who hates Trump more than Huma liquor breath. This is me at Russ and Daughters. I'll have the mensch. That's my order. I said, I'll have the mensch because if the stay-at-home dad won't pat himself on the shoulder, who will? And the waitress laughed a long time. She was African-American too, by the way. Russ and Daughters is an iconic smoked fish, third family generation eatery on Houston Street. Been there forever. But the sons and daughters of Russ came up with the brilliant idea to open up a cafe where you could actually sit down and enjoy all of their delectable delights. So I met there with my great aunt Marion, who lives in a rent-controlled apartment in East Village. And she's wonderful, very generous to my 3 kids. We've decided to actually celebrate 4th of July on her rooftop next year. Prior, the best 4th of July display I ever saw was on a rooftop in Greenpoint when my wife, then girlfriend, used to live in that area along Monitor, paying like $1,000 a month for rent. Times change real fast, obviously. But this is light years ago. You know, back when Lena Dunham had much skinnier arms and wasn't so full of herself. Steve Bannon popping up on a news feed is a bigger boner killer than playing Spin the Bottle with Al Franken. Note to self, hosting a father-son cooking show on Adderall won't make you hungry to do more recipe planning. My dad hates the term stay-at-home dad. He prefers sheltered bum. How about we start calling stay-at-home dads between wives? What? It's hard to get your wife in the mood for love when you choke her too hard financially. Daddy, why are you so mad? Because 3 kids later, our Chevy Traverse is more cramped than Hillary Hammer Time Cankles after her handlers save her from taking a tumble down the Spanish steps in Rome after too much vino. Why are my kids superior company than most? For starters, they believe my podcast can become big because they hear the hearty laughs I get in public and know I'm getting funnier every day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Really wish I could sing. Do it all, Dad. Breakfast tip. Use your old weed grinder collecting dust to grind up your granola. Also, don't plop down too much yogurt on it, or else the granola gets lumpier than Lisa Lampanelli's tits after gastric bypass. According to Mother of 3 / charter school CEO Eva Moskowitz, you can't have it all, ladies, especially when she calls the nanny of her 3 kids their second mother. Yikes. Was Julie Andrews' clone already taken? This episode is called Hustling from Home, which was inspired by a picture that I have on my wall. And it's the only thing that I inherited from my grandmother that I could actually like hold and look at and like put on the wall. She did give me some Pfizer stock, which I'm very grateful for. I was able to use some of that stock my last year in California, living in Sherman Oaks. I was collecting unemployment and I throw myself into my first year of stand-up. I was living in Hermosa Beach prior, and obviously that cushion, went a long way, and one thing led to another, and in the end, I was able to achieve my career goal at the time, which was to write for TV. That's why I started doing stand-up in the first place. I gave a very moving, impromptu, half-formed eulogy at my grandma's funeral. I haven't been to many funerals, but apparently the Jewish tradition is to not bury someone in this like ornate casket. It was really, it could not have been more bare bones. It was a wood casket, so you really felt the heaviness and of death. There was like no. All you felt was skeletal, heavy death. But I also got swept up by a spirit. Could have been my grandma's spirit, other spirits in the gravesite. But I made peace with my grandma there because she never came to my wedding, and I had a hard time forgiving her for that. My father says that he didn't want to focus on her, but my younger brother says that my dad's not a narcissist. Meanwhile, my dad was making the entire wedding about him, and he also wore all white along with my mother. According to my wife, that's a big no-no. Also, haven't been to that many weddings either, so I had no idea that was like completely unkosher. My wife's theory is that they weren't involved in the wedding planning, so that was the way of saying, hey, we're important. But it was a beautiful wedding. It was right outside of Woodstock, and not to bore you with the details of my wedding, which was very magical, but my grandma, did not show up, and my parents didn't push for her to show up either. And she wasn't hobbled or anything. She was bipolar. She's always depressed anyway. Anyway, it bothered me. So, but it did inspire this one funny joke where I say, after I found out that my grandmother, wasn't able to make it to my wedding, and I only have a younger brother, that's it. And I also didn't get married until my early 30s, so it's not as if she was like a spring chicken. And I'm pretty sure she knew that Natalia was pregnant. No, she didn't know Natalia was pregnant because we told everyone after the wedding. We didn't really tell that many people after the wedding. Anyway, so the joke being is this. In retrospect, I really wish I could have substituted my whining Jewish grandma for a wise black grandma at my wedding. I bet it wouldn't have been that hard to do, right? If I think about it, all I had to do was post an ad on Craigslist that said, wise black grandma needed for wedding outside of Woodstock, New York. All expenses paid. Tyler Perry impersonators are welcome, but you must be comfortable performing in front of white audiences only. We had a couple of black friends there, but that's the extent of it. It's not because I don't like to seek out black friends, it's just the way things have worked out in my life. But I've always been able to make the brothers laugh. Having Paul Mooney, after I got that call back for his sketch comedy show, and him approaching me afterwards saying, I hear you're funny, that was beautiful. And I attempted to audition for the Apollo Theater in Harlem about 4 months ago, but I showed up too late because my wife was working the previous night, and I was looking after the 3 kids, and I didn't realize that there was a 2,000 person limit or whatever the limit was. Anyway, we'll do it next year. So that's my substitute black grandma joke for you. Hope you appreciate it. But again, this episode is called Hustling from Home, and we're dedicating it. What inspired me is this picture on the wall of my great-grandfather. So he was my grandmother's father. His name was Joseph Franz. That's his Americanized name. I would just butcher it, his original one. So we're going to go with the Ellis Island anointed name, Joseph Franz. And Joseph Franz was an entrepreneur of his time because he drove operated his own pickled herring food cart along Delancey and Ludlow Street. The Lower Side was his territory. So, in essence, my great-grandfather, Joseph Franz, who managed and pickled and cured his own pickled herring pushcart, he essentially was the food truck pickled herring guy of his day. And I'm sure he had stiff competition too. And it's not as if he just bought out all the pickled herring at Russ and Daughters Wholesale. He had to do it all. And I think it's really awesome. And I look at his picture and he's got a great smile, very affable. And I definitely get his hands. My hands are enormous. And meanwhile, I still can't palm a basketball, which is really pathetic, but I'm working getting the hands stronger. I'm sure he could, though. But I wonder if anyone ever called him Too Tall Jew. This is, of course, my own semi-cheesy nickname in my honor that I came up with about like 12 years ago. But it's a beautiful picture. My brother got insanely jealous when he saw that I had it on the wall. So this episode is for Joseph Franz. And, I'm calling this episode Hustling from Home because I've been doing some major soul searching. And I know I was making fun of Eva Moskowitz before, who is the head CEO of Success Academy Charter Schools, which I totally support. Me being a product of white privilege, I make jokes, but I am. I grew up in Westchester County. It doesn't get any more privileged than that. And as far as I'm concerned, charter schools represent school choice and better opportunities for success in this world that normally aren't afforded to certain families in poor areas in the city that obviously, especially for parents that can't afford to send their kids to boarding school like my parents were able to do it for my brother. So after he fucked up, and I'm not going to get into it, but the point being is I love charter schools because they represent innovation and doing things in a new, more efficient way. And they've also produced results. So I think that's a great thing. I read that in her book that a part of the curriculum is not just the classes themselves or providing the extra hours, whatever it takes to get these kids to get certain scores so they get in the colleges, but more importantly they take them on school trips to colleges so they know what they're shooting for, which I think is really great. Thought that was very inspirational and very touching. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for Eva, just to be clear. And I hate the fact that cockblockers like De Blasio have done everything in his power to deny school spacing and has charged them rents, all because private money from like private equity or like hedge funds or any big shots in the finance world in Manhattan. He's whenever there's been that sort of investment behind the charter schools, De Blasio has held that against them, which I don't really get. I mean, I get it because he's obligated to serve the teachers unions, but I mean, he's got a biracial son who grew up in Park Slope, and so he's not struggling. And either you want to be this progressive mayor and help out people of color or not, and charter schools help them out. So if you don't help them out, then you're a fake news progressive, want to be good guy, if you ask me. So but in her book, she talks about, listen, like this idea of being a modern mom that could work and have children and do it all, you're not going to read that in this chapter. And she, like I said before, she referred to having this, nanny as a second mother, and that just seems so. I can't even imagine the concept of, my wife referring to another woman, doing the same thing, like for our family. Now, folks, I don't plan on like being home forever, but like I have a newborn over here. I mean, he's not even 2 yet. My son, Arthur, has 1 more year of pre-K, and my daughter's in the 2nd grade. and my wife works as a nurse at nights. So, and I did launch my business. I'm an LLC, Stand Up Stafford Productions. We're now 42 episodes into the podcast. We're going to be launching my new cooking show, which I mentioned earlier, Double Talk with Chef Samuels. Going to be focusing much more heavily on my Do It All Dad Year blog. Going to be developing some more short stories, some kids entertainment as well. So the point being is I have an opportunity here, and I plan on writing a book called The Stay Down Comedian, Controlling Kids to Comedy. And I really feel passionate about providing this platform. I'm very passionate about providing a community for Do It All Dads that celebrates Do It All Dad Pride. And I plan on making a father-son cooking show that empowers Do It All Dads to be the best version of themselves. And I also want to make them laugh, and I want to compliment them, and I want to educate them so they could feel superior to their significant others and eventually teach their children how to make certain delicious dishes. So in the end, the kids can pick up the slack so they can eventually enjoy their significant others if the love is still there. If their wives appreciate all of their actual involved work. And also, this cooking show is going to be an homage to the late, great Anthony Bourdain. He says lunch can be the most soul-affirming thing in the world. The late Nora Ephron said, I can't understand anyone that like life isn't even worth living if you're not going to plan what you're going to have next to eat. So I'm paying homage to both of them because they're both writers and they're dear to my heart. They live by the word. They use humor to translate and cope with their pain, their struggles, and it's really, comedy is a writer's best friend when you've been blessed with that funny jawbone or just the funny sensibility in general. But they were two genuine New Yorkers, and they were larger than life in their time. So and then to quote someone else who I now love, who's definitely up on that like role model, like dream team pedestal of stars in my heart, and that would be the famous writer, the Irish writer George Bernard Shaw. Actually being a vegetarian until he was in his 80s. And I remember reading a quote saying that eating is the most sincere love human beings have. So I'm going to build up on that. I mentioned before in the podcast, in the past I was a critically acclaimed Yelper. When I was doing stand-up, it was a way to work on my storytelling after my daughter was born. And, that was my way of being adaptable and adjusting to my new situation, which wasn't planned on. And that's what I'm doing here, folks, as far as hustling from home. I ended up organizing some books, became very familiar with a bunch of parenting, like trade publications. So the goal is to start getting published there and to start sending out essays and poems. I mean, I have plenty to share. I love to write new ones, how-tos. We took a spring break to Norway. I'm 42 episodes in over here. Funny You're Dead, Happy Baby. I could go on and on. So I want to be the premier leading voice for modern parenting, do-it-all dads today. But that all starts with, building this, community here. So I just want to thank everyone for everyone's sustained interest and for all the encouragement because moving forward, these podcasts, they're not going to be as joke heavy. I would always use Twitter in the past to test jokes, see how much legs they had after all. But every time I catch a hot streak, I start being shadow banned, and I can't handle it anymore. And it really prevents me from really diving deep and getting into the real heart-rendering writing that I'm obviously capable of and I've done before. But, with the jokes, it's more of a like quick endorphin release, and it's like my intellectual combat, but I need to move past that. So, but I'm so glad that you guys have been enjoying the jokes. The jokes will still be here, but in the form of my father-son cooking show through Double Talk with Chef Samuels, and of course, the blogs and essays and poems and short stories on the Do It All Dad Year blog. So plenty to look forward to. And my eventual book, Stay-At-Home Comedian, Controlling Your Kids Through Comedy. Can't wait for that to come out and be a bestseller, so my wife can really hate me for getting here at the Range Rover and having ultimate leverage in our relationship again, and for my talk about my parenting philosophy proving to be superior than most, and for me triple down betting on my belief in me making this happen. Not that she doesn't believe in me, but she has her concerns, but she did say that she was pleased with this new focal point of attack when I started reading publication names to her on the Parenting Magazine front. But this is what I'm doing. And I wanted to call this episode, I wanted to change it. I wanted to call it Hustling from Home / Writing Out of Poverty. I got to trust my instincts more. Hustling from Home / Writing Out of Poverty. So there we go. We'll make sure that that's our title on iTunes and Spotify. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to bet on the muse, as the great Charles Bukowski would say. So again, this episode, it's dedicated to my great-grandfather, Joseph Franz. And I had a conversation again with my daughter about, what's an entrepreneur? And so here's some material that I prepared for you guys called Daddy, What's an Entrepreneur? Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? Wyatt Earp was. He said, no man ever became rich being a salary man. Unless you're an ex-president who gets high with his daughter, now to act like a fake, deep, biracial Marley. Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? An FU-possessed demon who won't go back to his cubicle-chained existence again. Wanting to piss off your parents royally is all the fuel you need. Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? I should really learn how to spell it first. Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? President Trump, Mayor Bloomberg also, thought he'd run against Trump. I also thought Bernie secured the DNC nomination. 2018 just wasn't the year for atheist Jews. Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? Someone who makes money off of a book creation, like the ghostwriter for Harry Potter. But I'm sure after living on Skid Row, J.K. Rowling's only shelter from suicidal thoughts was Fruity Wizards and the bad guy from Die Hard. Daddy, what's an entrepreneur? Not always nerds who invented, get this, internet sports radio. Being an entrepreneur who bolted from ESPN also makes Colin Cowherd a tad easier on the eyes. It's my younger brother. When your kids get older, I'll tell them how crazy you are. So my response, you're the one who thinks dad isn't a narcissist, which is crazy coming from a bold Jew who poses driving selfies on Facebook. Neighbor. It's my neighbor. The garbage truck won't throw your carpet away unless you pay them $25 for it. My reply, I bet ICE would chuck it out for free if you planted some angel dust on it for me. Don't you know I'm loco? The intolerant librarian. So you're a Trump supporter? At least Hillary has the balls to get rich or die trying, Witchy. I bet my neighbor, who works for UPS, wears only a Speedo on Labor Day and says to his wife, super tight, right? Clearwater Beach, here I come, with or without you. Pushing lesbianism on my daughter eventually. Mommy says birth control makes her nauseous, which is why you were born. Well, that and me being a major stoner at the time, forgot to ask Mom if she was on the pill. My mother, charter schools are destroying our country. My reply, wrong. Fake news is. They embrace diversity of thought less than Lou Reed on the rag. So baby boomers still buy the New York Times for 7 more years. USA! 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 This is Do It All Dad, your podcast. Dad-friendly entertainment for you and me, controlling our kids through comedy can make our kids great again. Happy Labor Day to everyone but fake news fro Colin Kaepernick. Talk to you guys soon.